Afternoon, Boston Buddies. Welcome to Brunch with Boston Buddies with special guest Michael Wardian today. Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
Good. And we also have the original guy who started all these interviews, Bart Yasso. He's going to join us today as well. Hey, Bart.
Hey, Vince and Michael.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
See you guys. I see Michael way too often on crazy races all around the world. It's unbelievable. And Vince, you're doing a great job with this. You're taking over for Howard Stern. I don't listen to Howard Stern at all anymore since you started this. I love
it. Yeah, we've been lucky, and yeah, people don't realize, I think, that it was your idea that you started all this to try and take everybody's mind off of what's going on and just give them something to look forward to. So thank you.
You're doing it. That's the key.
So Michael, we always start out the interviews just by checking in to seeing how people are doing during these crazy times. How is it down there in Virginia?
Everything's okay, actually. I mean, it's everything's kind of still closed, and none of the restaurants are open, and none of the parks are open. We're still allowed to run on trails if we're not in a group. Most people are wearing masks here, which is something our friends that live here went away for 2 weeks and came back, and they were like, wow, I can't believe how many people are in masks. Yeah. So when you're outside running or whatever, most people, at least if they don't have it on, they just have it around their neck, and then they pull it up when they get close. And it seems like everyone's being pretty cognizant of everyone else. And and I'd say, it's been interesting. Just, as Bart said, I'm a big traveler, and I love to kind of explore the world. And it's been, odd to be here for 8 weeks. I think this is probably the longest stretch that I haven't, been on a plane or on racing somewhere. But I've kept super busy. I actually had, the biggest amount of miles I've ever done in a single month, and the most events. So, I've been keeping busy with a lot of virtual runs, and really engaged the community here in those events. And it's been pretty great and really impactful. I've actually noticed some of my neighbors are starting to run now that hadn't run before, just because, they've seen me out there, and they're coming up and saying oh man, I've been really inspired by what you're doing. And it's funny, the little loop that I think I've run 1,000 times around my block, over 400 miles. And now people in the neighborhood and in the area will come and just do a loop around. It's kind of like your Yasso 800s. You probably just made those up for yourself, and then they took hold and really became part of the cognizant, the conscious of the running community. And it's the same with what I'm doing. It's I was doing it to challenge myself, and it really stuck with people, and it's been something that's been inspiring to them, and I think it's a good cycle, because it in turn inspires me to keep doing these things.
That's cool. The Wardian loop, we can call it.
Yeah, totally.
I love it.
So
hey, I gotta say something early. We gotta do it's only half a day late, the belated Mother's Day, because
yes.
I know you and Renee have a little one, and Michael and Jen have 2, and I was with Ann and her 2 kids. It was pretty cool. My whole job on Mother's Day was we let Ann go out and run for an hour. So she got in her 6-mile run. So as Ann got in her 6-mile run, I helped Emily and Alex cook her breakfast, her favorite breakfast. And
nice.
Really my job was to make sure the kids didn't burn down the house. And they almost did, even when I was there. But we did pull it off, have her favorite breakfast when she came back from her 6-mile run. I'm sure you guys had some fun yesterday.
Yeah, it was similar.
Take care of your wife yesterday.
Yeah. She set us up for success like normal. So she sent us the recipe she wanted us to make, and then I did a CrossFit workout, and then did a run with my brother, and then while she was out doing a workout, I got breakfast prepared. So I made some Dutch pancakes, is what she wanted. So
that's what Ann had, Dutch pancakes.
Oh, no way. Yeah. That's actually pretty straightforward.
Honey-free cheese, Dutch pancakes, and of course coffee.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's similar.
How about you, Vince? What went on?
We had similar. We did the breakfast in bed for Renee. She's a bacon and eggs type of person, so we did bacon and eggs for her.
Nice.
Although my 5-year-old kind of threw a monkey wrench in there, and she kept coming up with like a bowl of cereal, a Go-Gurt, whatever she could find, she was just bringing up and giving her to eat.
Happy belated to all the moms out there.
Yes.
Yeah, good call, Bart.
Yeah. Yeah, and Michael, you got to get the recipe. You sound like Ann always calls me her child in his mid-60s. She has 2 teenage children and then one in the mid-60s.
Yeah, exactly.
So Michael, can you one thing that we do ask people to always do is give their intro video, which means basically like when did you start running and why did you start running? Do you remember?
Yeah, totally. So I guess I don't know if your audience knows me or not, but I'm a professional marathon and ultra marathon runner. I guess like I'm known for, I race a lot. Like last year, I think I raced 57 times in like over 1,700 miles.
Yep.
Won marathons on all 7 continents in the North Pole, set Guinness World Records. Done a couple 3 Olympic trials, and then also I run lots of ultra marathons too. And
You're
something I guess. I run. Yeah, I have won marathons as Elvis and Spider-Man, and so I definitely have a wide range of things that I do. But the reason I got into running was actually to run the Boston Marathon one time, way back in the mid 90s. And then I kind of got hooked, and so I've been running ever since.
Mid 90s though, you were fairly young, in your 20s, I assume, right?
I was. So I was 22. So yeah, I'm 46 now, and I thought I'd run the Boston Marathon once, and didn't realize you had to qualify, and qualified at the Marine Corps Marathon. In my first marathon, I think I ran like 3:06, and then decided to try to break 3 hours at the Boston Marathon and ran like 2:54, and just kind of started setting more and more goals. And it's crazy, where running will take you. I think Bart said it the best, is like, never limit where running can take you.
Yeah, you got never limit. And you got your time down to 2:17, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I ran 2:17 as my PR, and and I was kind of known for being able to run like 2:20 like every weekend basically. And and now it's more like 2:30, and it's because I've been focused on a lot of the longer stuff. So I just something that really resonated with people like maybe about a month ago, as I ran a thing called the Quarantine Backyard Ultra, where you run 4.167 miles every hour on the hour until everyone quits. Yep. And I ended up, cool. Yeah. So I ended up going like 63 hours, or basically 10 marathons, so 262 miles in 63 hours. And
it was awesome to watch.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
But I slept a lot and ate a lot while you were doing it. I got 2 good nights sleeps, about 7 hours each night while you were up continuously running, and then tune in when I get out of bed, and then do my little. You forced me to do a 4.2 mile run, and then I got on the computer and watched it again. It was unbelievable.
But the guy you were up against was on a treadmill, and you were running outside. You were doing your loop, right?
Yeah, I was doing the loop around the neighborhood. So so it's actually interesting. This past weekend, I did a different kind of challenge. It was 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And I did that on the treadmill this past weekend. And I actually decided to try to walk the whole thing. And so it was pretty awesome. So I walked for 48 miles, and I actually added a couple of miles to get over 50 because I'd never walked that far. But for me, it was interesting to kind of see like what a big difference, if you go every couple hours versus every hour. And then also if you try to walk it versus run it. And so it was cool. It's like, I feel like I've been doing a lot of really interesting, fun things during this time. And, that was just one, other challenge to kind of throw out there for myself.
But the backyard challenge though, you went 63 hours with no sleep? Is that,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
like, how do you?
Yeah, and the kids, his two kids and Jen were up for most of that too, because I kept seeing them
Yeah.
all the time. I'm thinking the whole family's awake just about for
Yeah, it was
30 hours.
yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I had a lot of support, but yeah, it was a big event, and then I actually came home and I slept for like maybe 45 minutes, and then I went right into work. Like, I work from home, so I just went right to my desk and started working. I had a bunch of stuff to do like that day, and I was just like, hey, you guys got to really double check my work, because my brain's been a little bit, mushy, but it actually turned out great. And it was
cool.
super cool, because like, I feel like our sport, takes a lot of effort, and there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of times, with the other sports going on, and we don't kind of get as much exposure as we could. And I feel like with nothing else going on, it was something that people really gravitated to, and it was a chance to kind of showcase, just how badass people are and what they're doing. And so yeah, it was cool just to, like, have the mainstream media really take note and appreciate just how cool running is, and what you can do with it. And I think a lot of people are actually, like, I think Bart and I were actually talking about this, but I think a lot of people are finding running during this time, because it's something you can do by yourself, and it's a great way to relieve stress, and also to stay fit. And it's something where I think coming out of this, hopefully we'll have a bunch more runners that are part of our community.
I agree.
Yeah, I totally agree. So if anyone's not familiar, the Backyard Ultra is a race put on by Laz, who does the Barkley, the famous Barkley. And of course they had to do it quarantine style because of the pandemic. So it was, but it's streamed live, and they really covered the elites. It was incredible to watch. And
yeah,
and depending on where people live, some people couldn't leave their house because of quarantine laws. And so they had to be on a treadmill. Some people could go outside. So everyone, there was one guy running around in a restaurant, around a table in a restaurant, and that dude lasted a long time.
Yeah, that guy's actually like
treadmills. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and there was a lady in this, like, she was running from her sauna, like, on a frozen lake.
Yeah, she was Swedish. She was in Sweden, and she was running, like, she had a remote, like, little cabin sauna type thing, and that's what she was running out of. She was actually in the top 4, and then she had
I think she ended up third. Yeah,
like, and the only reason she stopped because of a snowstorm.
Yeah. I think we got lucky. She was maybe the strongest one of all of us. So yeah, it was crazy, man. It was really I didn't expect to I didn't have any expectations. Like, the longest I had run before that was about 36 hours. So so for me, it was a big jump up, and it was cool just to know that, that's in there. And it's really kind of, I had said earlier, like, my big thing I want to do is run across the country. And before the quarantine Backyard Ultra, I just wanted to kind of, make it across. But now I want to try to go for the Guinness World Record and try to, break this guy, Pete Kospelich's time, like, of about 42 days. So it's about 70 miles a day. So it's a real challenge.
Yeah, Pete's the real deal, as you know.
Yeah. He's one of my teammates on Hoka One, and he was actually my roommate a couple months ago at our global brand conference. And so I got a chance to pick his brain a little bit, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's done some incredible things.
So, funny story on the quarantine Backyard Ultra. So, Vince, if you were taping yourself as you're running, it would show Vince at the bottom, and have your name. Well, Michael's wife Jen was using her phone, and apparently she was out with her girlfriends, and because of the Tiger guy, Joe Exotic, Jen changed her name to Jen Exotic. So Michael's out there running, and the screen name kept coming up as Jen Exotic, and I figured out what it was. I was getting all these messages like, "Hey, what's up with Wardian? He's coming across as Jen Exotic." I was dying. It was so funny.
Yeah,
At
it
some
was
point, you
funny
guys
too.
figured it out, I would assume.
Yeah, it was funny too because she didn't know how to unchange it. Like she couldn't like switch it.
Yeah,
So they were
people
like,
were,
hey,
they were wondering if something happened to Wars, if he ran way too much, change his name to Jen Exotic. That's hysterical.
We're getting
yeah,
a lot of good comments here. A lot of people that are watching Facebook right now are telling us that they watched you do it, and they're congratulating you and just saying how incredible and motivating it was for them to actually watch that. That's impressive.
oh well, thank you. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of records Michael has. The record for doing 7 marathons, 7 days,
Yeah.
7 continents, cumulative time faster than anybody, and also cumulative time doing all the majors. He owns both
Yes.
records.
Yeah, we just had
Yeah.
Becca Peasy on last week, and
Yeah,
she
Becca
was
is
the American woman that did it. She's friends with you, obviously, but she was on last
Yeah.
week and spoke very highly of you.
Oh yeah, she's great. Yeah, Becca's awesome. Yeah, she used to have the record, and then I feel like it's been broken maybe twice in the last couple of years on the ladies' side. But
She was the
yeah, the
first.
men, yeah, the men's. I think I still have that. It's around 2 hours and 45 minutes average for 7 marathons and 7 days on 7 continents, and then I think I still have the record too for all the Abbott marathon majors in the same year. I averaged 2 hours and 31 minutes for that. So
that's unbelievable. That's awesome.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
It's,
It was, and then what was crazy is like after the last. It's a funny story, and it goes to like dressing up. But I celebrated the week after finishing all the 7 by flying to Vegas and doing the Las Vegas Marathon dressed as Elvis, and I actually ended up running 2:37, and I set the Guinness World Record as Elvis in Vegas, and ended up winning the Vegas Marathon as Elvis. And I'd say like, it's probably one of the coolest things ever, to just be running in Vegas as Elvis, and then to actually end up winning the race was just insane.
You're like the Gary Finelli, the modern day Gary Finelli.
Yes.
Running in costume.
Yeah, exactly.
Where were you when you did Spider-Man?
I actually ran that at a local race here called the Lower Potomac Marathon. It's
Okay.
In a little town called Piney Point, Maryland, which Bart might know because I think you go down that way.
Right.
It's like in St. Mary's County like area, but this one's like over off Indian Head Highway. It's kind of like on the southern tip, and it's actually by the Seafarers Union school they have down there.
Okay.
It's great. I mean, it's just a super small race, but yeah, I think I ran like 2:31 as Spider-Man at that race. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. Like and it was funny because like I kept the mask without any holes in it, so like to drink water it was like getting waterboarded because you had to like drink it through like the cloth,
Right.
So you were setting the standards for wearing masks. You were ahead of the game.
Well, yeah, I was actually joking. I was like, hey, I should just wear my Spider-Man mask instead of like a little like buff or like I actually have this new company that I'm talking to that makes these cool like running masks that actually work pretty well. So yeah, maybe I'll end up wearing those or something.
I'll send you the Boston Buddy buff. That works.
Yeah, Boston Buddy buff works pretty good.
Yeah, the buffs are nice just because you can pull them up and down pretty easy. Yeah. And if you're used to wearing a buff, like I remember like the first time I saw a buff was at like Marathon des Sables in like 2000, and I thought it was such a gimmick. It was like $25. Yep. And then we got the first sandstorm, and all the people with buffs just pulled it up and like were fine. And I was like choking sand, and I was like, oh my God, I would have spent like $50, $100 on that thing. Like I was so pissed at myself for being cheap, but
yeah, it does. I was the same way. I didn't believe in the buff. It's one of the members kept asking me, she's like, you got to get a buff. You got to get a buff. So I finally did it. And it was weird because in the wintertime, it actually, you can put it up and it does keep you warm. But even when it's hot, you sweat and it'll keep your neck cool because you sweat.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. It's kind of like wearing arm sleeves when it's really hot. Like it seems like, oh, that's stupid, but like if you wear arm sleeves and then you can tuck ice in and they stay wet
Right.
against your skin, it's it actually works really well.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where you like look at it and it's got, I remember like Bart, you've done Badwater also, but like you'd see those people in like the full like long sleeves and
Yeah.
like, and you'd be like, that's so stupid. But then you get there and you're like, oh, actually, yeah, that's good to knock the sun away.
Yeah, I did the first 110 miles in the full suit, head to toe, and it helped tremendously.
Yeah, and then you all wear like
Oh,
I wore white and I had a singlet, but like but then there were, and you know what's weird is it gets so cold at night too. Like it's not cold for real, but like when it's like so hot and then it gets to like 80 degrees and you're like, oh God, I need like a wool hat and like I'm freezing. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, it's like a 30-degree temperature drop, you know? So it's a big difference. So anyhow, yeah, it's one of those things where I think that's the coolest part about running is like there's always like a problem solving aspect to it, and just because something works one place doesn't mean it'll work somewhere else. And like especially and Bart, you've seen this too probably in all your travels around the world, like there's so many different ways to like fuel and race, and like, you know, the guys in Japan just go out super really hard, you know, just because like I couldn't figure it out. Like they go out like crazy, like kamikaze style, and it's because like all their races have like such ridiculous cutoffs.
Right.
Like if you're not like through 30K at like 2:30 pace, like they just like pick you up in a car and take you off the course. So it's like, dude, you got to run like super hard.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, okay.
Yeah, much different than the way races go on in the States.
Yeah.
Remember, Michael, remember we were both guests on the Spartan cruise to the Bahamas?
Yes. Yeah.
So Michael gets this idea. We're on this cruise ship out of Miami going to the Bahamas, and we're going to do this Spartan race. So Michael decides to do a 50K record on a treadmill on the ship. So he does it like 3 hours and 4 minutes, 50K on a treadmill.
Yeah,
and then he finds out that night that somebody has run faster but didn't get it certified at this point. So then 2 days later, he runs another 50K on the treadmill and runs 3:03 to get the record. And I was like, dude, you got the heck? And I remember the second one you did, 2 days apart, 50K on a treadmill on a ship. On a cruise ship. Second one you did was your wedding anniversary.
I think it was like
your wife Jen comes in and she's watching you run on this treadmill. I say, hey Jen, what's up? And she goes, oh yeah, today's our wedding anniversary. This is cool. I'm like, oh my God, Michael. I was dying. Yeah. It was so funny. So I sat down with your wife. She had a glass of wine. I just had like water or something. We were chatting. And you were just going to town. 303. Yeah. 50K and 3:03 on a treadmill is pretty serious.
Yeah, it was cool. And then like a couple of months later, Hoka had me do it at their annual conference, and we were the first people to break 3 hours. So that was actually pretty rad. And it's actually cool because during this quarantine, I've seen that it's been broken, I think 2 or 3 times. Like Mario Mendoza broke it, and then there was a German guy, like a Red Bull athlete, that just broke it. Like either Red Bull or Solomon. So yeah, so it's been cool to like, set some of these records, and people have, chased them down. It's kind of like I read an article like way back in the 30s. There was a guy that had done like a 2:35 marathon inside in like a 200-meter track. And so I was like, I could beat that. So I set up a marathon at like a local middle school track here, indoor, like a 200-meter track, and ran like 2:27 and broke his record. And then now, and it's cool because like the Armory in New York now has, they put like $5,000 on it. And they brought and I've actually run up there. It's like a bank track. It's pretty awesome. And I think the record's now like 2:17 or something. So like they've really brought that record down too. But it's kind of been fun to like set some of these records, or chase like a friend of ours, like a guy named Marshall Ulrich, used to have the record for doing Leadville, on Saturday, and then he drove to Pikes Peak
Yeah.
and ran that. And I broke that a couple of years ago too. Like I was in Leadville and I was able to get into Pikes Peak, and so I broke his time by like 3 or 4 hours or something.
Wow.
I drove myself between, and yeah, it was awesome.
So you have to finish the Leadville 100 and then drive from Leadville to Colorado Springs, to Manitou Springs, technically.
Yeah.
And be there by 7 a.m. for the 7 a.m. start.
Yes, exactly.
Serious. And
Yeah,
Marshall is one of the original dudes that he did it all before anyone did it. He did Badwater and then ran back to the start, to the traditional 146-mile course, and then ran back to the 146 miles back to the start. And then he did it by himself.
Yeah, pushing like a cart.
He had like a rickshaw that he pushed or
Yes.
pulled, and that had all his food and ice in it and everything. It's unbelievable. The guy Marshall did all 7 continents, the highest mountains in all 7. Summiting the first time. When you summit Everest on your first attempt and Denali on your first attempt, you're pretty good. Marshall was one of a kind dude, man. He's still out there. He set some awesome standards to go try to break.
Yeah, I know.
Pushing though, you also set the record for pushing a stroller too, didn't you?
I did, yeah. With my son, we set the Guinness World Record when he was about 10 months old. Like, I think I ran 2:42 the first time, and broke the record by like 20 minutes. And then with my second son Grant, I ran 2:34 and lost to this guy named Zach. He ran 2:31. It was awesome though. We finished first and second overall on the Route 66 marathon. Yeah, I think Bart, you were there, right? Like, that's
it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy too, because like the end is kind of congested with like the half marathon. So we're like kind of zipping in and out of everyone.
And you both had strollers. You're both pushing strollers and you finised 1-2.
Yeah. Yeah.
With their kids in the stroller.
Yeah. With kids. Yeah. With kids in the stroller. Yeah.
Right. Well, did you ever do the double stroller though?
Actually, I did race with the double stroller quite a bit. I think one of the funniest stories about that is I was doing this race on the C&O Canal here. It's kind of like a rocky, like rail to trail. And I didn't realize this double stroller had a flat. So I was like, I think it was like a 8K or something. It was like 4K out and 4K back. And I was in second. I couldn't catch the first place guy, but the third place guy was like right behind me. And so it was like me and him were kind of battling. And then my kids were like throwing stuff out of the stroller. So I was having to like stop and pick up. So I like gap him by like, 50 meters or something. Then I have to stop and pick up like a lovey or like snacks. Yeah, exactly. And so then he would catch up to me, and then I would like pick it up again. And I'm like, dude, I'm really not doing this on purpose. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, it seems like I'm just trying to hose you. Like, come here, and then speed up. But I really wasn't.
Unbelievable.
That would have been great to watch.
Oh my God. Well, and then I realized that I had a flat tire too. So like I was like, oh man, come on. Like, so it was like kind of lopsided, the stroller.
Never give up. Doesn't matter. Get through every whatever we throw at you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I've done a lot of weird stuff. I mean, there's still a lot of good stuff like left to do though. And I feel really fortunate that I'm in my mid 40s and I'm still out there, charging hard and chasing down big goals and have support to do that kind of stuff.
Now, I did read on your wiki page too, that you, in 2009, were you on a cargo ship that got hijacked?
No. I have like I'm a partner in an international ship brokerage, and we represent U.S. flag ocean going vessels. And one of our big clients is a company called Maersk Line and Maersk Line Limited, and they own vessels. And so our vessel was the Maersk Alabama, which was hijacked by Somali pirates. Like, so if you ever saw the movie Captain Phillips with like Tom Hanks, like that was our ship. And so that was actually a weird story. I was actually doing a race called the Marathon des Sables across the Sahara Desert, and you carry all your food for a week. And I actually ended up doing really well. Like, I think 6th that year, and then the next year I finished 3rd. But I got back, and my buddies like that I work with were like, "Hey, your ship got hijacked by pirates," and I was like, "No, come on, man, I've been gone for like 2 weeks. That's not true." And they're
Right.
like, "Yeah, turn on CNN," and I was like, "Oh, seriously?" And so yeah, we ended up having to deal with it's one of those things that that you wouldn't think pirates are a real thing in this time and day and age, but yeah, they really are.
Somali pilots are for real.
Yeah.
You have proof.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, luckily it kind of worked out okay for everyone except for the pirates, but but yeah, it was kind of a tricky situation there for a couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, glad you're safe. And
yeah, no, I just talk about ships. I actually don't go or sail on ships, which like someday I would love to. I think that would be really neat to do a voyage, and I've talked to them about that before, just to get like a firsthand look of like what the cargo operations look like, what the port situation is like, how the transloaders work, and just get a feel like for the entire process, but I haven't had that opportunity yet.
Go through the Panama Canal. That'd be a cool thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We were just down there. That is actually one of my dreams, is to run from, I've actually set that, I've actually talked to some people. I want to try to set the fastest time for going between the two oceans. Like it's about 40-45 miles.
Right. Yeah, and I think like prior to 9/11, you could have actually run, because there is a road that they use for, now they use it for security, but they used to use it just in case something, to check that all the locks are working and that kind of thing. It's like a dirt road right next to the whole Panama Canal. But I think by today's standard, I don't think anyone's been running on that thing or walking on that. But, years ago, I'm sure people did.
And I think they actually have a kayak race that goes through the canal. But supposedly they can do a route where you can go and parallel it and get kind of close.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that's still the case. I don't know what it is now, but that was maybe about a year or so ago that I was checking on it.
Yeah. It's the coolest. I mean, I've seen it from the air. It's the coolest looking thing. Like it just is like, they just cut this strip through like to go from ocean to ocean. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting story. And we went on the way to Costa Rica. We stopped there so we could see it, and we went to, I think it's called Miraflores Lock. It's kind of right near Panama City. You can get there super quick, but we got to see a couple ships go through, and it was, man, it's a real wonder of the world for sure. Like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. What I've got a few people that are asking questions. They're asking questions about what you eat, and I believe you're a vegetarian, correct?
Yeah, that's true. Yep. So is Bart, actually, I think.
Yeah, it's 30-some years, 31 years vegetarian.
Yeah.
I do remember in the quarantine backyard, when you talk about what you ate, when Laz, who's the the race director and the race director of the Barkley, he was eating some kind of bacon and cheese and scrapple sandwich, and your wife said, "Oh yeah, I'm feeding Michael rabbit food right now." I forgot that came across the live stream. It was hysterical. But go ahead,
I am a vegetarian. The only two animal products that I eat are eggs and honey, and so no fish, no meat, no dairy. And it's been interesting. I've like Bart, I started about a little bit before I started running kind of seriously in the mid 90s. So for me, it's been a long time too, I guess, 20 some years or so. And and for me, it works really well. And I've gone all the way to vegan and then kind of come back to eating eggs and honey. Just for me, that seems to work, the best right now. And especially with travel, it's sometimes hard to like get, fresh vegetables and fruit that you can trust. So like eggs are pretty easy to find almost anywhere in the world, at least in my travels. And usually they're pretty safe. And then honey is, something I was super excited. I have like a hive on its way. So I just have ordered my first hive. So I'm going to start doing some beekeeping. So that's
Nice.
been something that's been on my list of things to do for a long time. So my hive is supposed to be here any day. So, and then I have some friends that have supposedly caught some swarms. So maybe I'll end up with some bees that way. If not, I got to order some bees.
Well, if you get that hat that you have to put on and those gloves and all that stuff, we got to see pictures of that.
Oh, dude, I ordered it. Yeah, dude, it's coming. It's coming. I got the deluxe kit.
So you got to
I got
the marathon record as a beehive guy. Like
as a beekeeper.
Oh my God, that is definitely. I will have to try to set that. I'll see what is required for Guinness for that. But yeah, I have the whole suit and the gloves and the veil and the smoker. All that stuff.
So what were you snacking on in the quarantine backyard ultra? So you always had approximately 20 minutes of downtime till you had to run again, and that's where you're fueled up?
I was taking liquid calories with me, and then and you're not allowed to take aid once you leave the aid station in that race. And so even though I was passing it, I couldn't take anything. So I would have liquid calories. I'd always have 2 goos with me and a sleeve of the chews from Goo. Goo's a sponsor, so sponsor plugs. But and
it's
then
allowed.
yeah, okay. And then at the aid station, I think I ended up eating 4 like Neapolitan pizzas. I had smoothies. I had pickle juice. I had pickles. I had egg sandwiches. I had potato chips. I had, and like when I say pizza, it's basically I don't eat cheese, and so the pizza was just basically like bread and red sauce. So I mean, not super exciting, but I like it. I had fruit, a lot of coconut water, which I thought was kind of a joke, but actually I really like. I find it works really well for me, and it's kind of different. I had a lot of soda, like I drink Coke during those things, some ginger ale for like when my stomach would get a little bit off.
That's what
So yeah, it's basically just trying to get in as many calories as you can and having a lot of options. And then trying to not be too picky. I had a lot of soup. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. I had soup because especially when it got cold at night, it was nice to have something warm. I had some hot tea. But yeah, just having a lot of options, I think, is kind of the way that's worked for me. And then it was cool because this has kind of been an evolution of everything I've done. And so last year, I ran across Israel in 10 days, 1,000 kilometers, and set the fastest known time on the Israeli National Trail, which is kind of based on our Appalachian Trail. And I got a really good feel for, how to do these kind of like back-to-back. Like I've always done really well at stage races and back-to-back efforts. But that was kind of a further evolution, and I felt like that really boded well and taught me what I need to do to be able to keep moving forward in the quarantine backyard ultra. I use like everything that I've learned over my career, like, how to manage heat, like how to take care of yourself, like make sure you change your socks, make sure you have lube, all these things that at one point or another I've either, I've learned the hard way, like, you really need to have lube in your backpack in case, you get caught in a rainstorm. Like I ended up having to drop out of the Spartathlon because I was bleeding from like my under my chin to like my knees, because I wasn't smart enough to carry, lube with me. And so like all these little things that you pick up along the way, it was cool to like be able to package those all together and use them and continue to like move forward. And a lot of times, like if you just like, I think Desi has said it, but I don't know if it's her quote or I've heard her say it, but it's just like, just keep showing up. And, that's kind of what that race is all about, is you just keep lining up and you try to worry about yourself, and if someone else shows up, then cool, you get to keep moving forward. And if they don't, then you have to stop. But you want to take good care of yourself. And I think that that is something that, you know, is applicable to life too, is like, you got to make sure that you know, do what needs to be done so that you can, you know, put yourself in the best possible position.
Okay.
But nutrition is a big part of these ultra races. Like if you don't know what you're doing nutrition wise, you, like you said, you pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a negative way, or you do it smart and it pays off in a positive way.
Yeah. And it's weird too, because it changes depending on like how hot it is, like how long you've been going, like if you're trying to go fast or slow, and like so like to be able to kind of manage all those things, especially like I was outside, so you know, I was dealing with a lot more of like changing conditions, whereas if you're like on the treadmill, you know, there's less you have to worry about, right? And also like you can just have your aid like right on the treadmill, so you don't have to carry or anything like that. So it's just a little bit different way of doing it. But yeah, anyhow, yeah, it's one of those things where I was happy that I was making good choices. And especially as you get more and more tired, you know, it's hard to make, you know, the same choices and to have people there that's, you know, maybe steer you in the right way. Or my buddy James is actually probably the best, like when I don't feel like eating it. I ate a lot of avocado, like avocado and salt. And he'll be like, dude, you just need to take a bite. Like, and I'm like, I don't want to. And like somehow he's like feeding a baby bird, you know, he's like, can get me to eat. Like nobody else can get me to eat, but James will be like, come on, dude, you know, you got to eat something. And I'll be like, oh, all right, you're right. And like, I don't know how he can break through, like, but he's pretty amazing.
You could write a book.
Yeah, actually, yeah, Bart and I were talking about that.
We had a call about this a couple weeks ago.
It's on your to-do
list.
Yeah,
it is definitely on my to-do list, and I've been talking to some people about how to make that work, and yeah, and so hopefully that's something that'll happen here.
There you go. When you announce the book, come back on, and you got 11,000 runners here that would be happy to take your advice.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, I would love that. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, it's supposedly it takes a little while to get it all put together, and I want it to be pretty special. And so, but yeah, when it's ready, I'll be sure to let everybody know.
Awesome. We have a question from the audience. Another one. Carol Sexton. Okay. She has a question. She has, what has been Mike's most difficult race and why?
Yeah, good question.
That's a good question. I've had I mean, I think I've dropped out. I've done, you know, hundreds, over probably 500 or so races, and I've had maybe 10 or so that I've not made it to the finish line. And so those are the ones that kind of seem to, you know, resonate with when someone asks that. And I'd say, yeah, like probably, like we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but the Spartathlon, like I was in really good shape for it. I thought I was going to do really well. And then, you know, I made a mistake and ended up, you know, getting chafed, and then I got hypothermic. And, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you put yourself, you expose yourself, and you put yourself in a bad position, and then it just kind of exacerbates itself. And then I wasn't able to extricate myself, and I feel like that was, you know, super unfortunate. I ended up dropping out of the Boston Marathon one time, which was just stupid because I was trying to run with the African guys, and I just wasn't fit. Like I wasn't as fit as they were, and you know, I just thought I was stronger than I was, and so like I tried to not make that mistake again. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is like, you know, I think actually I'd say probably the hardest race that I remember, it was probably my first race as an invited athlete. I got invited to a race called the Chancellor Challenge in Boston, and it was just on the promenade, like the 10K, like by the clamshell and everything. And it was it was a big money race. I think it had like, $1,000 or something, for first place. And, all the big 100K guys were going to be there. And they're like, yeah, we'll give you a hotel room, which was like, for me, it was like, the first time like being invited to a race. And I was so excited. And there was a really badass ultra runner, a guy named Jim Garcia. So he was like, national champion in 100K, and I was like, I'm just gonna follow him, whatever he does, like I'm gonna do. And so like there was 2 aid stations every 5K, and he was drinking like a whole cup of Gatorade every 5K. And so I was doing the same thing. I was like, I'm sitting right on his shoulder, I'm just gonna do what he does. And like 15 minutes in, I'm like puking on the side of the side of the course. And like they're just lapping me, and I remember like just refusing to quit, but I threw up for like 10 and a half hours. Like I threw up so much that like the race was like, we're gonna kick him off the course, and my dad was there, and he was like distracting the little go-kart that was like following me so that I could throw up without them seeing me, because they said like, if we see this kid throw up one more time, we're gonna kick him off the course. And so for me, that was like, just, it was humbling, because I was the absolute last person, and it was just like, I threw up like after the race, and everyone's like, you should just quit, and I refused to quit, and like made it to the finish line. But everyone had been, it reminds me of that Cake song, like Going the Distance, like everyone's left, and like I'm still out there driving, like it was just like I was still like, everyone had been done for like 2 hours, and but I made it. And then I threw up like all the way to the hotel, threw up in Mark Godell's like trash can at the hotel, threw up on the plane, and like eventually stopped throwing up like the next day. So like
Sounds
that
like
was oh yeah. And that was like 2001, so it was like a long time ago, but it's still like very poignant memory. But yeah, I also did a race in the Gobi Desert. It was called the Ultra Gobi 400K, and I got sick to my stomach and had like diarrhea for like 5 days. And that race, I'd say, was probably one of my hardest races. Just to be able to finish that, and to be able to move for that long, like feeling that bad. That was pretty tough.
When things like that happen to me, my wife just shakes her head at me and is like, why do you do this? And it's like, she's not a runner, so I can't explain it to her. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to, I think, if you're a runner, like there's something to enjoying suffering a bit, but but yeah, I don't know, there's something powerful about it too, because like if you can make it through that, you can make it through almost anything. And I think that that's one of the great things about doing these type of things is you can apply that to getting through like anything. Our son has exactly, quarantine, or somebody in your family is not doing well and you need to help them, or there's a lot of different things, like, I mean, that it is applicable to. And I think I just heard this, but like this guy David Goggins, who says like it's like you fill like a cookie jar and you can pull stuff out, but I feel like that's like I've said something similar. So like you put those things in your piggy bank, and basically you can withdraw those experiences when you need them. And like you won't believe how many times in the end of like a really long event I'll be like, oh, now I'm doing the cherry blossom 10 miler, I only have 10 miles left, I've just started, like I'm near the Lincoln Memorial, and okay, now I'm crossing the Key Bridge, and I might be in Poland or Australia or something like that, but I'll be like, oh sweet, now I'm on my 10K loop around the neighborhood, and then okay, sweet, now I'm doing the 5K that I love, the BAA 5K, like I'm going down the street, I'm about to turn at the bridge to head back, and there's so many times where you can use those experiences later.
And the Spartathon you were talking about, Michael, just so people know, it's 156 miles, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're close. I think I could be wrong. I think it's like maybe 154 miles, but it could be 156. But you run
Somewhere in
from
there.
Athens to Sparta. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
And
done that one or no?
no, I haven't. That's a serious race. I mean, the distance, and it's a tough course, and there's some
Yeah.
climbing. It's and serious ultra runners participate in it. It's a really
Yeah.
stacked field of Europeans and Australians. It's a serious event.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
a lot of 24-hour runners do it because you if you do really well, you finish in around 20. If you want to try to be one of the winners, it's I think it's around 24 hours to do 150 miles or so. So you're moving pretty fast, and they're it's funny they worry about this mountain section, but I swear they flag that thing like you're going into like JFK airport. Like there's like people, like I don't know what it'll be like now, but like there's like red lights everywhere. It's so funny when you come from like a trail racing background, like if you've done like I've done like hard rock, and those guys will like mark it like every 2 or 3 miles and be like, yeah, I think there's a marker here. I hope I've just descended like 3,000 feet. Like I really don't want to go back to the top of that mountain, but
That's incredible. So
Yeah.
you're a Hoka guy, correct? Hoka's one of your sponsors?
Yeah. They've been actually, I've been really lucky. I was one of their first athletes they signed, and been able to stay with them for, a majority of my career. So yeah, I've been really lucky to see how they've evolved as a company and a brand, and
Yep.
just the amount of choices that we have now is pretty unparalleled.
I'm a Carbon X guy myself. I like the.
Oh yeah, those are great, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I took part in we had that really cool project last year. It was about almost a year ago in a week or so, where Jim broke the 50-mile world record, and a
Yep.
bunch of us went after some records. It was really awesome. Yeah, those shoes are pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I love them.
And that-
Like it was a changer for me, a game changer for me. Like the injuries went away for whatever reason, and last year I was I had PRs, and the shoes definitely helped.
Nice. I
Yeah.
like to hear that. That's good. Yeah. I mean, and I don't know if you've tried the Rocket X, but those are really nice too.
I have not tried that one yet. No.
Yeah,
have to put it
those
on my
are
list.
similar. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that hat Michael's wearing, T-Mobile, the CEO, John Leisure, is a very serious marathoner. He's
Yes.
fast at Boston many times.
Oh wow.
A really
Yes.
cool dude. And he runs fast at Boston, but still does a charity thing just to raise money for charity. I mean, he qualifies, but he's a pretty serious runner.
Yeah, he's cool. He's a really good dude too. Like big
Yeah.
supporter of athletes and running. And actually, when I was doing last year, when I did 10 marathons in 10 days and 7 of them on 7 different continents, he came to the last day when I finished down on Haynes Point. Like he was trying to do the merger with Sprint and T-Mobile, and he actually brought like his whole counsel, like a bunch of the lawyers. He like made them come, and he was like, yeah, I might show up. And I was like, no way, that would be awesome, but no big deal. I know that you're going to Congress to like do like a multi-billion-dollar deal, and of course like I'm like running, and I'm like 18 miles in, and then all of a sudden I like was joking with some guys that were running with me. I was like, I bet if he comes on like city bike. And then of course, like the next loop, like he and a bunch of dudes like bike up, and they're like, hey, what's up? How's it going? And so like, yeah, it was really neat, man. What a cool dude. And I feel super fortunate that, I was able to hook up with their team and be a part of the, it's a huge company, and they have a lot of resources and a lot of just like good that they're doing out there in the world and promoting sport and equality.
John's a good dude, as a great person.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
Obviously a great CEO and a great runner, but he's a really good dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can just tell, like he's one of those guys that you just want to be around, and it's like something that you can see in the company too. We were fortunate to visit last year when we were out there for, I think you may have been out for Hood to Coast a couple of times, right, Bart?
Many times, yeah.
Yeah, and last year was our first year doing that, and we were able to visit the headquarters out in
Oh, cool.
out in Washington and just get a feel for like just how much people really enjoy working there. And like, it was, for me, it was one of those things where I always want to try to, visit if I can. And it was, for me, really impactful.
Yeah.
T-Mobile, they're my guys. I don't know if you
Oh,
can't
nice.
say it.
Yeah, John
They're my service.
Leisure. If you Google his John Leisure, it's spelled like Laguerre, but it's
Yeah.
pronounced Leisure. And he's a big time Boston Marathon runner.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, he's from that part of the world too, I think. Like,
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he's friends with like Gary and the guys up there at like Crow Athletics and like
Gary Allen.
Gary
Allen's in the
exactly.
group. Yeah.
Yeah. Gary's like one of my. I mean, he's like the reason that I was able to reach out to John, because he's just Gary and I go way back. I've done a bunch of his events, and like actually when I first came on, I had it like the Great Cranberry Island 100-miler sweatshirt
right.
on, but yeah, that's one of Gary's races. And actually that was really impactful for me too, because I mean, that's in his hometown, and it was 100 miles on like a mile-long road. So we just ran from one side of the island to the other for 100 miles. And that was like, Gary's like one of those guys that just comes up with cool ideas. And like, he's, basically brought back a community up there with his race in December.
Mhm.
Like for Millinocket, like it's completely free race, and then you just have to like donate
spend money in the town.
Yeah, you just got to spend money in the town. I was like, how baller is that? What an awesome idea. So like I took part one of the years, and I actually ran it in the Hoka hiking boots, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it was freezing. I think it was as cold as like the North Pole or something. Like it was legit cold.
Yeah. So what's coming up next for you? Anything? I mean, there's a lot of stuff canceled right now. Is there anything that you're doing? Any virtual races or anything that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been racing a virtual race probably every weekend. Actually, it has been every weekend since the lockdown. So either a marathon or ultra marathon. I've been doing a bunch of fastest known times also, which are basically like self-directed events.
Mm-hmm.
I got one where I want to run all the boundary stones of Washington, D.C. So that'll be, I think, between 60 and 100 miles, depending on how many I can hit. And then I'm an ambassador for a company called Ultra X. So I'm going to be doing some of their virtual races. Also talking to Spartan Trail about doing some virtual running for them. I've got some other fastest known times that I want to do just on some local trails here in the area. And then kind of my big project is, like I said earlier, is to run across the country. So, as soon as, we feel comfortable that things are safe and it's going to be okay, then I'd like to try to do that this year.
Yeah.
And then, I'm still signed up for the Boston Marathon and London Marathon, and I have a bunch of other events kind of pending, when things are opening again. But yeah, for right now, it's kind of going to be either virtual runs or these fastest known time type events, and then just kind of get, I'm trying to get super fit for when everything gets ready, and I feel like that's been really successful. Like I've been doing a lot of like strength training and cross training, and then also like just big miles every week. So when things open up, I think we're going to have a lot of people that are really excited to get out there and see what they're capable of. And I think we're going to see some like crazy records from people, because everyone's been cooped up for a while. But I think also like just the chance to like go head to head. Like I was actually doing an article for Ultra Running Magazine, like what's the difference between a virtual run and a normal ultra. And I was just thinking like how much you can push yourself by your virtually, like where you're just looking at someone on a screen versus when you're like actually like next to somebody and you can hear their breathing. And like, I don't know if you've ever been in a race like that where you're like battling somebody and you're like, oh, I think I got them now, because their heart rate's up and their breathing's heavy. And But that doesn't actually mean that that's, true, but like
Right.
there is something like powerful about like, being on someone's shoulder and you come down to the final kick and like, can you hold them off? Can they hold you off? Like,
Yep.
I miss that, like that and then
competitiveness,
like as
yeah.
soon as you cross the line, like you're just buddies again, you're like,
Yeah.
you give them a big sweaty hug and you're like, thank you for making me better. Like, I can't wait to have those experiences again.
Yeah, you gain a respect for each other after doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real test. But I
Well,
mean,
we're-
you get that with the virtual runs, but it's not quite that. You don't have the
Yeah.
visceral aspect of it. You can't smell like their garlic on their body, or like if you're running with like like the Africans, like all the Africans, like they have like like the spices, and you're like in the group with them and they're talking and you're trying to figure out what they're saying. Like, are they saying like go faster, like slow down, like we've got this chump, like
Right.
You gotta
man,
learn. You gotta learn more Swahili.
yeah. Like jumbo, let's go.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing something in our group. We're doing a tournament, a Boston Buddies Tournament of Champions, where it's just 5K.
Oh, wow.
It's 5K, 128 runners. It's like the NCAA tournament. So every week you go head to head, and it cuts the field in half every week.
Oh my God! How do I get in? Am I already too late?
You're not. You can do it. You can do it, and it's all age graded too, because we've got Gene Dykes. Everybody has Gene Dykes as the favorite because he's 73 and he runs a 1919 5K. So
wow, yeah.
But
yeah, wait. So can we bet on this too? Is it like the actual NCAA bracket? Like we can get FanDuel on it?
You can donate to your favorite charity. That's what you can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, Becca's doing it. Amby Burfoot's doing it. Roger Robinson's doing it over in New Zealand. We got
Oh, so dude, dude, I'll do it. Yeah,
right.
Sign me
changer.
up. yeah, dude, that would be awesome. Like,
this Boston Buddies group, Michael, they raise a lot of money for charities. It's a really good group of great people. Always helping each other out. It's pretty cool.
Okay, cool. So when do I have to run the 5K? Like today or when?
Next weekend. It starts next weekend. So you can run Saturday or Sunday, and you'll be paired up with somebody. I'll let you know who it is, and then you guys can coordinate like where you're running or what you're running. Just got to run a 5K. Helps to obviously have a GPS device so that they can track you or you can track them. And then you go on to a Marathon Guide, has like a calculator, so you can do equivalent. So it's like we're trying to level the playing field. So the person's younger than you, you do your age time.
Yeah. Actually, that was Marathon. Like John Elliott was one of my first. He was actually my first real big sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I miss John. He's a good dude.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, if you join it, that would be great. I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot of fun. Just, it gives everybody something to look forward to. And it all started from last week. Jean challenged one of the women in our group, a 30-year-old girl who's a super runner, Emily Morley. And everybody got all juiced up. We raised money for charity for it. People were betting on each side to win. And it just gave everybody something to look forward to. And Gene's just a super nice guy. He's here in Philly, so I run with him and I know him. He's a real nice guy. He's very charitable and just he's doing things that I hope I can do when I'm 72 years old.
Yeah, I think I actually got to meet him at a half marathon I did out like near Lancaster or something, like out in PA. My buddy Maggie Guterall, I don't know if you know her or not, but she's a super ultra runner, and she had me come to, I don't know, it was like the Dirty Half or something, or
something. The Dirty German?
Dirty German, maybe that was what it is. It's like a half marathon, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, Ron Horn does one in Reading, and then the other Stefan Weiss, he does the other one.
Uber Endurance Sports is Stefan Weiss.
Yeah, it was really fun. We had a good time. Like, I feel like I got to meet him maybe. I was like, he and Ed Whitlock are like, I'm like, you guys keep setting those records, so when I get up there, I'll have something to chase, dude. Like,
right.
Like, for sure.
Gene broke a couple of Ed's records, longer records, but Gene's the first one to tell you he can't touch Ed Whitlock's short distance records. off the charts what that guy ran. Literally
Yeah.
off the charts.
Yeah, I used to love that he would just like run in a cemetery. Like I think that was one of your guys' articles on him. Like I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's super baller. Like I
Yeah, I
like
missed that guy. He was a cool dude.
yeah. I mean, there's so many interesting people in our sport. Like yeah, hopefully we'll get to, chase some of those records down in the future.
Well,
Oh, actually, I forgot to say, like, there is one other thing I'm doing. It's kind of a cool concept. It's East versus West, and it's the Yeti runners on the East Coast versus Destination Trail on the West Coast, and we do, I think, a 10K, a half marathon, and a 50K, and then fastest times wins. So it's like all the East Coast runners versus all the West Coast runners. And so that's kind of cool. So I think I got to do that this month too. So I definitely will have like a 10K, a half marathon, and a 50K coming up here soon.
awesome.
Yeah.
Quarantine doesn't stop Michael Wardian.
No.
No, man, not at all, for sure.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever in Philadelphia, I'd be happy to meet up with you. Come up in November for the Philly Marathon or the half.
Yeah, I've done the Philly Marathon a couple of times, but you know what I really want to do is that Rocky run, the 50K.
Yeah. It's an unsupported run.
Exactly. And then I saw that there was a guy or a person that ran all the outline of Philly, and I was like, that would be fun to go for that FKT too.
Yeah, he's in our group, Gags. He just did that a couple weekends ago. It's 76 miles. He traced the whole perimeter of the city. It was awesome.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I've been wanting to do with my Boundary Stone run, but I keep getting sucked into these virtual runs, so I haven't got to do it yet. But that may be something I tackle this weekend. But then I saw his, I was inspired. I was like, I bet I could do that maybe quicker than he did. So I was like, I might have to make a trip up 95.
I can introduce you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, I'd love to share the day with a bunch of, like, that's what I think is one of the things I miss the most, is just the chance to like go to a city and meet up with people. And I'm always one of those people that likes to do the group runs, and Bart and I do it all over the world. Like you meet up the Saturday before and you do the shakeout run in Kauai or Boston or Chicago or London or Tokyo or wherever. I mean, runners are runners all over the world, and the chance to just like be shown a special part of the world to somebody is, for me, one of the greatest things.
You would get along with Gags. He's an ultra runner too. He's a 100-mile guy. He does all those crazy races. He's a super nice guy. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. It sounds like it. I mean, I was super impressed. I was like, oh my God, that's my idea. He just did it faster and sooner. So like, it's cool.
Awesome. Yeah, you're welcome anytime. Let me know, man. I will. Philadelphia is a great city to run in, and we got a lot of great paths, a lot of great trails and stuff like that, a lot of history. And you're welcome anytime. I'd love to run with you. And Gene's from here too. He would join us.
Yeah, that would be fun, man. I would like that. Yeah, actually, I went up there to do like a race in Rittenhouse. I did like a 5K there, and I think I ended up like getting in a fight almost with like the guy who finished second. Like we were like battling the whole way, and it like
sounds
just
like
got
Philly.
a little it just got a little testy at the end, and my wife was like, damn, man, you're gonna get in a fight. I was like, I don't know, man. This guy's like, it was a battle the whole way. It was pretty funny. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun.
The fight nobody would pay to watch. Two runners that are fast enough to finish second, third in a 5K race is not going to be a real fight. The UFC would tune out, trust me.
Yeah. No, actually, that's actually one thing that I want to do is chess boxing. Like, so that's on my list of things to do. So if you guys haven't seen that, that'll be something for your group to look up. But chess boxing, you play chess for 3 minutes, then box for 3 minutes. You can either knock the person out or checkmate them. So like that's
Wow.
Yeah, that's something a guy in London and I have talked about. But that's the only place I've seen it is London right now. But when I go over for the London Marathon, like it's usually in the fall. So like now I actually have a chance where I might be able to get into a match.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that.
Thanks.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. This conversation was great. I feel like we could go on forever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I got to go to work. I'm already late for a meeting.
Yeah. I got to do the
Ben's
same.
actually working these days.
I know,
And
right?
You work too, Michael.
Yeah, actually, it's like you guys are in front of me, but right behind you is my desktop. So I'm monitoring my inbox as we speak.
Gotcha. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, and I'll pencil you in for our 5K tournament of champions. And
Yeah, just let me know where I need to sign up or like what I need to do.
it's free. There's nothing to sign. Yeah, you're in. I've got a spreadsheet, and then I'll send out all the information.
All right, sounds good.
Michael, say hi to your family for me.
Will do, man. Thank you very much. Same on your end.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Bart.
Yeah, we'll do. Peace
All right,
out,
bye,
guys.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.